Welcome to We Run This Town podcast, the official podcast of Gulf Winds Track Club, serving our area runners for almost 50 years. Our podcast is designed to support our runners in the Big Bend area, whether you're a beginning runner or an elite runner, offering education, entertainment, and encouragement on all topics running. Let's get running with today's episode. Excited to dig in today on the places you will go with a couple of good friends of Gulf Winds Track Club, Tom Parker and Doug Bell, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a minute. We are fortunate in the Big Bend area to have a lot of trails and a lot of roads, a lot of hills, a lot of grass, a lot of sand, a lot of gravel, and where we can run or ride from a biking standpoint. So we wanted to spend some time with the two of them for the benefit of our members at Gulf Winds to learn more about these places. But I'm going to let them go ahead and do their intros, and then we'll jump into our questions. So again, welcome to We Run This Town podcast. Tom, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, thanks, Mickey. Really happy to be here. I've been running in Tallahassee now for a little over 14 years. Kind of got the bug as I was turning close to 30 and was getting ready to have a kid and decided I needed to get my life in order. And just started on the 5K thing and then the marathon thing, and then eventually ended up on the trails as the distance kept going up. It was a little easier on the bones, so really moved into the trail scene at that point. And as you said, now spend a lot of time in the ultra world.
Nice, thanks, Tom. And professionally, you work for a statewide association, right?
Yeah, I do. I work for the Florida Healthcare Association. We represent skilled nursing facilities all over the state. So do a lot of legislative advocacy, education, that kind of stuff to support our members.
Doug, go ahead, man.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Mickey. I'm actually a reformed runner. Was really serious about running for, 10 or 15 years, and you and I have a lot of great times running together with the training, some of my favorite memories of running. But then with a back injury, I got more serious about riding, and I'm a mountain biker. So I'm not a gravel rider, not a road rider. I am a mountain biker, and I am the president of the Tallahassee Mountain Bike Association. And I'm a lawyer-lobbyist at Metz Husband and Daughton here in Tallahassee.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. And, before we jump into it, I'll share a story. Before you all came today, I went to lunch at Tropical Smoothie, right? And great little snack. And a young man behind the counter said, hey, you do Ironmans? Because I happen to have the hat on. And I said, no, but do you? And he's like, no, I'm a mountain biker. And I just smiled at him. He has no idea we're doing a podcast today about trail riding, right?
Right.
But I asked him, I said, what's your favorite trail? And he said, East Cadillac, and then Kudzu Trail. Yeah. And so I'm going to let you talk about those in a little bit when we get to it. But again, it just brought me right to how cool it was today. We're going to talk about all the places. And our members, if you're listening, whether you're a beginning runner, elite runner, or an elite mountain biker, getting something out of this whole podcast. And we know there's Tallahassee.com, right? We know there's Trail Forks, the app. I've looked at that, and there's Strava, and there are a lot of ways to find trails and roads to ride on or run on. But I really want to touch on the feelings, too, while we're here today, because that's what I enjoy about running, is the feeling I get when I'm out there in nature or if I'm riding the bike. I do ride, Doug, on the road. So first question, guys, I want to ask you how you got into really the dedication to trails. And again, you touched on, Doug, a little bit because of your back, and you mentioned easier on the bones, running on trails. But was it a person that told you about it, or when did you feel like, all right, I'm in it now? You're the president of TMBA now. That's a statement there of commitment to the process. So if each of you just kind of say when it started for you, when you knew trails is what you wanted to do.
Yeah, so I'll go first, and it really almost kind of happened by accident. I was, working actually not too far from here, and would run on my lunch break a lot, and, was 3/4 of a mile from the entrance to the trails at Tom Brown. Okay. So just, running in June, July, trying to find some shade, just said, hey, let me get off the road and duck underneath these trees for a little while. And then just realized, how much I enjoyed it. To your point, right? You get to hear the birds. You don't have semi trucks driving beside you like you do on the roads, and Yeah, I mean, and we're really fortunate. There's just some beautiful trails all over this town, but that's really where I started, some of the trails back by Tom Brown.
Okay. And we'll get into a list because we did ask on Facebook, we asked our club members to share their favorite trails. So I've got a list of those. I want to hear from the experts today what you think about those trails and when you describe them. How about for you, Doug?
Well, mine started really when I was running, and a lot of the running was done with groups. I live on the north side of town, so primarily up there in the Forest Meadows, McClay Gardens, Phipps, all of that. So I would run on trails a lot. And then I've always been into extreme sports. So, if I was, and I did triathlon and so forth. So transitioning into mountain biking made sense for me as opposed to road riding. I guess it was a little more rad. Like to
Well, you are from Volusia County, right?
Yeah,
Daytona Beach. You've been on the beach, on the surfboard, I'm sure. So I get it. So thank you for that background. So next question. If you could, either of you, today, pick a trail to be on, what would it be, and then why?
Oh man, this question was on for the listeners. This question was on the pre-prepared list, and I'm trying to think of what is my favorite trail. Where I don't know that I really have one because so much of it depends on how much time I have, what sort of mood I'm in, what the weather is like, whether I'm going to ride with a group or not, how far I want to go. So there's all those factors. Just right, I think a quick and a rowdy ride for me is Redbug, and I ride right out of my garage, and I do Redbug. But if there's been a rain, I like to go to the south side of town. I like to do Munson and Twilight. I'm going to go there right after this podcast.
Okay.
And the key for riding down there after there's a rain is all the soft sand is packed down more. But it totally depends on time of day, how much time you've got, how you're feeling. So I can't pick a favorite one.
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry, man.
No. There were two there.
All my children are the same.
So Redbug, let me start there. Mm-hmm. So it's convenient, right? So I heard that's one thing. It's right out of your house. But when you're on Redbug, what is special about that? And I don't know it as well as you. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, Redbug it's maintained by the city, and it's behind the Forest Meadows tennis facility. It is single track. It's got a lot of routes. It has some man-made features like jumps and clay turns, clay berms, rock features, but it's really rooty, and I think you can say it flows fairly well, but it's mostly rooty and challenging.
Okay, great. Love that description. Okay, and then Munson.
Yeah,
pretty smooth, right? Totally different.
Totally different. It's pretty smooth. So Munson is down on the south side of town, and there are sister trails. You have Munson, and then you have Twilight. Twilight is the natural surface of the fine sand, like beach sand. And Munson used to be that. However, during, I think with some Obama funds, they capped the trail with orange clay. So it rides a lot different. It's got great flow. You can really haul butt in there.
Okay.
Just be careful you don't catch your handlebars on a tree or something.
Yeah, it could be pretty thin, right?
Yeah, the tread of the trail is relatively narrow, but it's a smooth, flowy, minimal roots, no man-made features really. It's so gorgeous out there because you're in the flat piney woods, and you can see a pretty fair distance, and they burn it every once in a while. Tallahassee Mountain Bike Association goes out there periodically and maintains it by trimming the edge, by clearing sand pits. You get a long view through the piney woods, and it's so special for me at a sunrise or a sunset. I've never done the midnight like moonlight ride out there, but people do that.
Nice. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I caught a podcast recently, riding with Rob, something on YouTube where he came out and did Munson, filmed his ride, and he was talking about just how smooth it was and how it flowed. Mm-hmm. But the trees looked really close to his handlebars as he was flying by him. So, yeah. Thanks, Doug. Tom, how about you, man?
Yeah, I think a lot like Doug, it depends on time of year, it depends on time of day, it depends on what I'm looking for. Today it's starting to finally cool off a little bit here in Tallahassee, which means it's about time to start heading back towards Phipps. and all of the different trails back there, whether it's Swamp Forest or Oak Hammock or Coon Bottom or all the different names back there. The bugs can get pretty bad out there because it's pretty remote. So, when the cooler weather comes, it's a great place to go. It's, you see a lot less people, so you really kind of feel that connection to nature. Love to take my dog running with me, and so he loves to run back there, and see the deer and the squirrels and all the wildlife, and then, we just kind of left hot weather season. Find myself at Miccosukee Greenway a lot during that time of year just because there's a lot of water stops along the way. So you don't have to quite carry as much with you. And, as someone who's trained through the summertime a lot for ultras, spent a lot of time on Miccosukee Greenway. It's a great trail for beginners because it's really hard to get lost on. It just goes straight.
Let's hope. No lefts, no rights.
Yeah, you don't turn. Just run straight ahead, and you can't get lost out there.
Yeah.
But, it tends to be, it's middle of town. You get a lot of people on it. You get a lot of, bikers, runners, walkers, hikers, people on horseback. So it can be a little more crowded out there as well.
Okay. Yeah, the weather is nice. Fortunately, this is happening. And our favorite trail, I say our, I'm referencing the Moore boys, who both of you know. There's a trail out in Southwood. It's called the Capitol Circle Office Complex Trail. Mm-hmm. It's behind the emergency management buildings out there. Mm-hmm. It's like 1.5, and it's in the woods. It's different kind of trail. It's got some grass, got some dirt. We like that just because it's convenient. But right now the boys are cross country at school, so it's that perfect distance, for them to practice a little bit, and they do well, and it's not too buggy. Ooh, I hear that about, was it Bradley's?
Yeah, Old Centerville Road out of Bradley's. That's another one that as it starts to cool off, I love to head out to.
Well, I think all your listeners know, but when we're talking about bugs, we're talking about like horse flies, deer flies, those things haul butt. So you can't outrun them.
No.
And there's a period where they're so aggressive. I did a bunch of research one time on what kind of clothes I should be wearing, what should I have on my head, and when they're bad, you'll see on social media, everybody's like, how do you deal with these things? What do you wear? Yeah. What do you do? I don't know that I came up with anything great, but definitely wearing a hat is helpful.
The hat helps. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna give myself some sort of strange cancer later in life with the amount of bug spray I've applied, but it's worth it now.
It is. That wasn't a question on our list, but bugs.
Yeah,
when you're running trails or riding,
least about running and riding.
Yeah, right. Because those
spider
horse
webs and bugs.
The hat,
dogs.
I'm just constantly doing this, right, and trying my best. So I want to share a couple samples from our members too, and then we'll jump back to a couple of the questions. So we talked about Bradley's already. I'm going to pick up a couple here, and if you guys, we can go back and forth, tell me what you think about the trails, what sticks out to you about these. So we've got Leon Sinks.
Can't ride bikes there.
Okay, so that's more...
And that's one I haven't run on, so I don't really have a lot of experience.
It is brutal in the summer, just brutal.
Yeah, I've hiked it with the boys, and it was hot. I remember that, but I've never run out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. Piney Z.
Well, Piney Z, so the bike trails there, you have Tom Brown Park that then connects with Lafayette Heritage Park. Piney Z, I guess, is the name of the neighborhood, and the park is Lafayette Heritage. So that's that East Cadillac that the guy at the lunch
Tropical
place talked
smoothie,
about today. I love East Cadillac, especially upper East Cadillac. It is so fast and fun, and a lot of good features there. Lower East Cadillac is where I broke my arm like 9 months ago. Not my favorite.
Rad.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, but I mean, the great thing about Piney Z, there's a parking lot right there. There's bathrooms. There's water fountains. So it's a great place to kind of start. And you've got a lot of trails in both directions. I mean, you go one way back towards Tom Brown, and there's a lot of options that way, or you go the other way out towards Alfred. And, yeah, it's a great place to start. And you see a lot of alligators out there on the land dikes. And
there's multi-use, too. So, you don't have to be on the single track. You can ride on the wide multi-use.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a little bit, beginner to more advanced stuff, certainly.
Okay. Orchard Pond.
So I've run that one once or twice. It's the old original road out there that once they built the toll road, they kind of opened that up. I think it's about 3.5 or so miles long.
But you have to do it there and back.
Yeah, it's an out and back.
Okay.
Yeah, you park at one end or the other and kind of can do an out and back on it. Very remote. Not a lot of people use it, but it's a great little trail. It's got it's a lot of kind of hard packed clay. Not really. There's parking lots on both ends, so you got some place to start from. Yeah, it's a little hilly for Tallahassee too. There's some decent climb out there over a couple of miles.
Okay. Not a place that gets many mountain bikers. I mean, I've ridden out there a couple times.
Okay.
What I like to do, though, now that you brought this up.
Yes.
So when I'm training, one of my days is I'll do out there on the actual pavement. So I told you I'm not a road rider, but I have a bike that I can ride on the road, and I'll go out there at like 5 o'clock and dress myself up like a Christmas tree so I don't get killed while people are doing 70 miles an hour. But I haul ass back and forth on that trail, not on the road, back and forth. It is gorgeous, and I go out there so early that I'm out there long enough, though, to watch the sunrise, and it's so beautiful. That is a beautiful road.
Okay. We'll be right back. Hey, friends. I've been a member of Gulf Winds Track Club now since, I believe, 2007. And I became a member is because I was running 1 mile a day, 2 miles a day. And I owe everything to Gulf Winds Track Club to get me to where I am today as a runner. The fellowship, the friendships, the relationships, whatever you want to call it. But, it's also the learning. I got to train with others. I got to ask a lot of questions. I got to witness growth in others, and all because of the club. I've had lifelong friends, and we've traveled to places and done special races, and now my entire family, we're all members of Gulf Winds Track Club. So I invite you to visit gulfwinds.org, become a member too. Now, back to the show. Bradley's. And we touched on it a little bit, but I think last time I was on Bradley's with a group, it might have been some of our friends, Geb and I think Payman, somebody else. We ran all the way to Thomasville Road, right?
Yep.
On the way to George. I don't know that road and where it runs into, but when you think about Bradley's, what is it? What makes it special?
I think it's a really pretty run. It's unlike really anything else in town. Nothing really looks that way. You can get about 10, 11 miles going all the way out to your point on Thomasville Road there. You start on the pavement, then you hit the red clay for a while, and then you kind of hit the pavement again. I love it when I train for, I've trained for Boston a couple of times and spent a lot of time out there because of the hills. It's got some really good climb out there. The other cool thing is if you don't turn to the left there and continue on the hills, you can run into Georgia. So that's always fun to say that, you ran into another state and back. So, and then, obviously you got the old country store right there when you finish up. Get a little Bradley sausage for a snack or to bring home with you.
Riders call that the flag loop.
The flag loop?
The flag loop.
Okay.
I think something that's just gorgeous. It's quintessential North Florida, South Georgia. So big hills. And there's a lot of open fields around, so you can look through the trees off the road there into the fields, big oak trees, lots of Spanish moss, depending on time of year, lots of horseflies, but long, big hills. The road is well maintained. There is some traffic of people going to church. There's a couple churches on that road, or people kind of going to and from, but not a whole lot. It's a gorgeous hard-packed clay.
Nice.
And most of the people who are riding out there are people who drive it frequently, right? So they're used to runners and cyclists being out there, and they can't really, it's not like Thomasville Road where they could drive 70 if they wanted to. They kind of are pretty considerate. And Gulf Winds host a race out there every year, so that's a great time to run it. Yeah,
my memories of running that race, it's in January, right? 30K, 15K. Is when it's wet.
Oh, man, muddy peanut butter.
Muddy peanut butter. Just trying to go up and down those hills, and your shoes are just stuck, and you really can't push off. So, and it's usually cold, too. I remember that race. It's usually pretty cold getting out there. I remember one year was sub 30. Waiting for my hands to warm up on a 30K run was not comfortable. right? Is there a have-to race when it comes to this area in town for, again, what you're doing on a bike and for what you're doing when it comes to racing on trails? Is there a have-to race for somebody who might be interested in competing on the trails? Which one would it be?
Well, mine's going to be short because there's really only 2 races.
Okay.
And they're both done by professional companies that come in and put a race on here on our trails. There's what's called the Florida State Championship. It's a series of races around Florida, and it's at Tom Brown Park. I want to say typically September. People come from all over, a lot of people from South Florida. That's a great race. So they're at Tom Brown, and there's a course that goes on part of Cadillac and then Magnolia. And Gulf Winds Track Club Timba.
We're all there.
So Timba will take our grill down to Wally World, which is a wooden wall that you get some speed on and you ride up on the wall. And we'll host a party down there and cheer people on or heckle them or whatever right there. So that's one race. And the other race is another outfit that has a series of races, and it's called Go Nuts is the race director, and it is out at Redbug in May typically, and it's a good race too.
Awesome. Thanks.
And I think we could have more trail races in this town. We do have some really great trails. I mean, the ones that come to mind pretty immediately, though, Swamp Forest is a great race. They do different
100%.
Distances. You can go up to I think it's just a little under 7 miles, and then, like 13 miles or then 20 miles there roughly. And it's a great opportunity to run those trails, especially for people who may not be used to those trails. Those are the trails out at Phipps, because it is so well marked, right? And if you don't know what you're doing out there, you can get turned around. But, when a trail's marked and there's a race going on, it's pretty easy to stay. And they just do a really good job with that. The track club does a great job with that one. And then, also they do the summer trail series. So, if you're around in the summertime and looking, and those move all over town. So that's another great opportunity.
Yeah, that's Bobby, right?
Yeah, Bobby puts both of those on.
Great job.
He was. I think he just announced he's stepping away. So
Again,
yeah, this is
he'll get sucked back at some point.
That's
so
right.
do they still do Prefontaine?
Yeah.
They do. I think they actually that's another really good one. That's one I'd forgotten
Where is
about.
it now?
I don't know that it was at Silver Lake, right?
Yeah, I was a race director
Yeah.
when it was out at Silver Lake.
Yeah.
I would try to make it so difficult. I'd make people run through like 2 feet deep of soft sand. It was miserable. People were so pissed.
You know how many times I've done that race? Once.
Yeah.
Because of you.
One and done.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I didn't enjoy the sand. I was like,
Well,
I don't want to run through
that's
this
the
sand.
That's the whole thing about that race that was
Yeah.
supposed to be quirky and hard.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, I would like to ask both of you too, because, our listeners, some people are just getting into trails, right? Some have been doing it for years. But when you think of our trails, which ones stick out to you as, hey, that's good for a beginner, right? Less technical, maybe flat, or if I really want to challenge myself, I need some hills, I need some technical, I need some roots, whether it be, again, on the bike pedaling or on my feet. Which ones would you suggest for both?
I think, we talked about Miccosukee Greenway is pretty open, pretty wide. They do a really good job maintaining that. So it's a great beginner trail, like Magnolia Trail out at Lafayette Heritage is a pretty wide trail. It's open, right? It's, some rolling hills, but nothing crazy, not a ton of roots. And then you kind of go the other way. Doug mentioned Redbug. From a running perspective, those routes are probably a little less fun running than they are on a mountain bike. But, that's one. All of the trails out at Phipps, Swamp Forest, Oak Hammock, those are all mostly single track, a little more technical, a little more routes. But, even out there, you've got like the East and West Loop, which are, for the most part, a lot more runnable, more gravel road type stuff. So, most areas you've got a lot of mix in the same place.
Okay. Yeah, I think last time I was at Swamp Forest, that's technical for me. And again, y'all know I'm not a long-term trail runner. I'm mostly road, like Doug was in his time. And I fell 3 times last time at Swamp Forest, because the way the leaves lay in the sun, and you just can't see a lot of the smaller roots. And just coming through, I fell 3 times.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to go quick in a race or something out there.
That was part of the problem, Tom. I appreciate you pointing that out. Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Tom's made a good point about places having a mix of what I'll call double track and single track. And I always encourage people who are new to the sport of mountain biking to start to ride in the double track and get used to your bike, get used to, turning, shifting your weight, changing your gears, all of that. And it can be very hilly. Most of the places are in Tallahassee hilly. Even down in Munson, there are a few decent-sized hills. But I love Alford. I love Phipps. The Greenway, the Miccosukee Greenway, I don't really love so much because the crushed limestone that they use when you go around the turns is real slick on turning. So, I think other places maybe the turns aren't as sharp, or I don't know what it is. I've crashed there a couple times. Maybe that's
what it is.
But always start on the double track.
Okay.
And from there, there's just so many options. Probably, I would say the most chill single track would be Munson.
Okay. And then the most challenging, though, if I'm you and I want to challenge, where am I going?
Well, it all depends on how fast you want to go. So
Okay.
you can make the easiest trail very challenging by going fast. But I would say the most technical trail is probably Redbug.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I don't want to go fast. Not on a bike, unless I'm on the road. Yeah, right? Okay, so safety. Let's talk about that for a second, right? Or etiquette and safety and or gear, how they all play together, right? I've been on a trail a few times like Munson. I hear a bike, see a bike, and I'm running. But for safety and etiquette purposes, how does that play? If I'm a new runner out on the trail and there's mountain bikers, what do I do? Or if I'm out, doing a trail run in Redbug, never really been out there, what do I got to consider from a safety standpoint first? So I'll start with you on the biking etiquette and safety and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, definitely always wear a helmet. I see people out there without helmets. It's just crazy. And I also recommend always wearing eye protection, even if you don't need it to see all that well, because a bug, a piece of dirt, whatever, even if it doesn't damage your eye, it may, like for a brief second, make you close your eye and you could get off the trail, hit a tree or something. So always wear eye protection. And a helmet, I prefer gloves because if you rack your knuckles on something, it helps protect your hand, but that's not necessary. And then from an etiquette standpoint, it's interesting. Pretty sure I'm right here, though, that the bicycles under some, I'm doing air quotes here, official etiquette are supposed to yield to pedestrians and horses. However, in practice, it's typically the runners or the walkers who will step off the trail, and that's cool, so the rider can ride through. For horses, it's really important to make eye contact with the rider, the horse rider, and kind of ask them what they want, because you should get off your bike, walk it past the horse, all of that. But mostly the horses that are on the trails here are very used to having runners and riders, and they're not going to get spooked. But you definitely want to communicate with the rider, the horseback rider, because it may be something different.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would echo Doug's statement, right? I mean, I understand we've all seen the sign about, bike shield to runners and horseback, but, at the end of the day, if they're coming, on a bike coming down a trail downhill at 20 miles an hour, it's a lot easier for me to just kind of step off to the side and let them go by. Just be considerate of other people on the trail, right? That's the easiest rule. You see if you got 3 people coming up behind you on a bike, step off, let them go by, and then keep on with your run. They're moving a lot faster than you are. Have had the same experience with horseback riders. A lot of times it's, hey, come on by, everything's good. But you never know when they've got a new horse out there for the first time, and you don't want to spook that horse because it won't end well for you. Or the rider. Don't be 4 or 5 wide on a trail because you've got people trying to come the other way. leave room for people to going the other way or coming up behind you, whether that be a cyclist or other runners who may be moving a little quicker. The other thing I see a lot is, people on some of these trails that are very remote and very in the middle of nowhere running with, earbuds in with music blaring. You can't hear anybody coming up behind them. So, just be aware of your surroundings. No different than running on the roads, right? You need to be aware of your surroundings, whether that's with, some of these new bone conduction headphones or running with one headphone, or heaven forbid you run without music for a little bit. Just be aware of what's going on around you is a really important thing. If you are running on some of these trails that are a little more remote, you don't know where you're going, have your phone with you so you can figure out where you're at, how to get out of there.
Tom's made me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Tom's made me think of a couple things that are important for riders. So you're coming up behind a runner, you should always have a bell. Let people know that you're behind them. If you don't have a bell, rider back, let them know, because you could really startle them or whatever. Also, for riders, you know that you are in perfect control of your bicycle. But if you're going 18 miles an hour down a trail next to a runner who's coming at you, you're going to freak them out, even if that runner is a cyclist as well, because you're going really fast. So just slow down on the MPH a little bit. Don't zoom by the runners. And also, there's this one hill out at Phipps that bombs down to the lake. And as it's bombing down, it goes around a couple turns, and riders will go down that without any consideration that there may be a walker right on the other side of that turn, and you will scare the bejesus out of them. So slow down, ladies and gentlemen, when you're going around those turns.
Well, there's one or two of those at Redbug, too. I mean, I think there's even signs out about, call out ahead. Let people know you're coming, because they may not see you, but if they hear you, then they know and will get out of your way.
Yeah, it's pretty inconsistent from a runner standpoint. Like when I'm on St. Mark's Trail even, and bikes come up behind you, I would say maybe 50% of the time they say on your left, bike back. It's just really inconsistent. So it do us all a favor. Just communicate, right? Let people know. And don't wait till you're 2 feet behind the runner to say it and scare them, right? Let them know, like, 10 yards back, 15 yards back.
And same thing for runners. I mean, you come up upon, people out for a walk, and it's the same kind of thing. You don't want to spook those folks. Let them know you're coming, right. So as you go around them.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, Doug, y'all put some time in with the trails, right, as a club, TMBA. Can y'all, share with our listeners who's taking care of a lot of these trails, the city trails, county trails, like the teamwork that goes behind it, and how much effort it takes? Because we are blessed by having a lot of them, but somebody's got to be out there consistently.
Yeah, I'm real familiar with that. In my role as the president of the Tallahassee Mountain Bike Association, I work with the land managers. So Tallahassee Mountain Bike Association has several different missions, several things we do. One is helping the land managers to maintain the trails, and another is advocating for improved maintenance and advocating for the development of new trails. And the land managers that we have here are Leon County, City of Tallahassee, State of Florida, the federal government, so U.S. Forestry. And the last one is the Water Management District. However, the property that they have, the recreation portion of it, is managed by the city. And I can rattle off which trails are managed by whom, but those are our land managers.
Okay.
And the Tallahassee Mountain Bike Association does do quite a bit of work helping them. We don't go out with equipment or anything, but we will clear drains to try to mitigate erosion damage. We'll clear sand pits. We will trim trails when they start to get overgrown. We will build some other erosion mitigation features, things called rolling grade dips, rolling grade reversals, where you build like a hump, preferably a long hump instead of a speed bump, and then a drain on the side so the water will bump up against the grade reversal and then go into the drain and off the trail.
Okay. Yeah. No, thanks. I saw something on LinkedIn this week from the city. Like they have a 3-person team dedicated to the city parks in the work that they do. And it just made me think, There's a lot of time and energy with all these trails out there. So good work on, what y'all are doing, with the land managers. Thanks for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, the mountain bike group is really good about working on the trails around here. So as a runner, we're certainly grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple more questions for you. For me, I've always told folks when I run, especially on trails and it's early, like the emotions that I go through, right? And the things that I've enjoyed is I get to see and smell things that I've never had before, right? I mean, you go to work, you sit in the office, you got families, you're eating breakfast, you're in the house, you're doing things, but that's what sticks with me. So for the two of you, if you could visualize your most recent, ride or run out on the trail, what are those emotions that you go through and those experiences that keep you coming back?
I think some of it is just that early morning, right? The last several months have been warm, getting started bright and early, sometimes even starting with a headlamp. So I think Doug mentioned it earlier, kind of watching the sunrise while you're out there is really cool, and running through the spider webs because you're the first person on the trail in the morning is not the most fun, but just knowing that you're the first person out there. I mean, sometimes you go an hour and a half without seeing another person, but you see a dozen deer and 8 turkeys. Mm-hmm. So, just kind of watching the trails come to life in the morning is a really cool thing. Seeing all the wildlife, hearing the sounds of, things that you don't get to experience, right, when you're driving to work every day in your car, right? You don't see that stuff. You don't hear it. To your point, you don't smell it. It's just a really cool experience to just know that, you're the only one out there, just you and the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, some people aren't early risers. I am. I love the mornings. Some people like to do their thing at night or in the evening. I never really have, but it's hearing the world wake up around you, because when you're out there in the dark and everything is still asleep, and a little bit before dawn is when the birds start to wake up. Mm-hmm. And that is just a great thing. You don't, when you're riding, you don't hear quite as much of that because you got the wind in your ears and, the bike and the trail or the wheels going across the trail are making noise. But running, you really get that. And you mentioned smells, Mickey. When I used to run in the neighborhood in the morning and you're smelling everybody's breakfast, and after you're out there for so long, you're starting to get hungry. You've got a question on here, like, what's your post?
Yeah, we're leading right into it. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I mean, because you're out there for so long and you've probably given yourself, some sort of energy beforehand, ate a little something beforehand. But if you're at a long run and you're an ultra runner, I mean, dude, you're out there for hours probably thinking about the buffet you're about to demolish.
Yeah. So what is your favorite place then, post-ride?
Well, it's always my house. So I'm visually thinking what's in the fridge, what's in the cabinet, what can I make. Mm. I like avocado toast a lot, that, and a protein shake or something like that, and a lot of hot coffee. Okay.
What's your go-to, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, after a big run, right? I know you got a big one coming up this weekend. One of those kind of, the 2 or 3 you do a year, kind of those monster training weekends. There's nothing better than a hamburger. Some protein, get some French fries, get some salt with it. That's it. That's the spot. But yeah, coffee, because a lot of times, up in the morning, especially in the warmer time, you're not drinking a lot of coffee before I head out, and I'm an every morning coffee kind of guy. So getting back to the house for that cup of coffee is always something that I think about.
And of course, your pre-race though is a Pop-Tart. So just put that out there.
Pop-Tarts pre-long run. That's they're way cheaper than all of these health bars they sell, and their nutrient profile is not that far off.
And I will say, tidbit, I'll give you credit. I tried my first oatmeal pie last weekend during my 22-mile run.
You mean like a Little Debbie thing?
Yeah, Little Debbie oatmeal pie.
It
was great. I mean, just a little sugar, right?
That's the spot. I did a race a few weeks ago, and I think I ate 6 or 7 of them during the 100 miles. So they were the oatmeal pies are a go-to. I've got a shirt that says Little Debbie Racing Team.
Yeah. He went from Little Debbie to Big Debbie by eating 7 or 8 of them, though, but that's okay. I mean,
Well, I used to be Big Debbie before I started running. And
that's true. And that's why we can talk about that, right? The transformation from running. Guys, really thank you for joining us today. And, just as a reminder to our community of runners and riders, to remember there's a lot of places you can go. And hopefully today provided some visual, for them and some advice. But you can go to Tallahassee.com. Obviously Google, but Strava, Trail Forks, any other places that you want to share that they can go to find more places to ride or run?
Yeah, if you go to timba.bike, that's our website, and it has pictures and descriptions of various trails around town too.
Thanks, Doug. Anywhere else?
Yeah, All Trails is something I use, especially when I'm in a new area. They normally have some pretty good reviews. People have been on the trails recently, so that's an option. And here locally, the Gulf Winds Facebook page, just put on there, hey, look, I want to go run these trails. Does anybody, and someone's always willing to say, yeah, I'll go with you. They know them. They'll take them with you. There's a Tallahassee Trail Runners group on Facebook. They do a weekly trail run, and there's always people there willing to take a newbie out and show them the ropes.
That's a great point. I will say on Gulf Winds, their website, there's descriptions of all the trails where people have submitted written descriptions of all the running trails. So go to the website, read those, so you'll know what you're getting into when you select one of those trails. But I do think today's conversation is going to help our endurance athletes here, be the best they can be. So again, thank you guys for being on the We Run This Town podcast. Everybody take care and hit the trails, either on a bike or on your feet. But thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of We Run This Town podcast, the official podcast of Gulf Winds Track Club. For more information on the club, whether that be membership, upcoming races, or to listen to more episodes, visit gulfwinds.org. Remember, whether you're an elite runner or a beginning runner, together we run this town.